Well, we've gotten through the main parts of our architecture. The team is happy, the app is solid, and the users are flowing in and out with a great experience. But admittedly, we skipped a very foundational aspect, and that's networking and security. Now, honestly, most of it is that I didn't want to scare you so early in the series, but the second reason is that, well, when people first start building infrastructure, I'm not really sure why, but this tends to be an afterthought. Even the AWS tutorials that they have in their documentation will skip past of this most of the time and just say, oh, here, use the default or just copy and paste this. But this unfortunate and constant number of embarrassing breaches on AWS is proof that this is ignored far too often, no matter what company size you're at. Whether you're independent or an enterprise, it just seems to happen with everyone. However, the third reason we haven't really talked about this is that it can be pretty complicated, and there's not really a way around it. Even beyond AWS, networking and security are very deep and wide topics. Unfortunately, all that being said, these two ideas are not optional. In fact, with networks, this should really be the first thing you do, even before you make your very first EC2 instance. And how would you do that? How would you go about doing so on AWS? Well, we can create isolated networks on AWS for our infrastructure using virtual private clouds, also known as VPCs. Now, if this sounds intimidating, well, it may be a bit, I won't lie, but it is just another service in AWS. You interact with it just like any of the other services. You fill in text boxes and click buttons. It's not some magic spell that you'll have to, spend years studying on the dark side of the moon. It's just another service. But what makes VPCs hard is generally two things. The first shouldn't be a surprise to you. Right? If you don't understand IP addresses, DNS, and the way the web connects over networks, you may be able to float by in tutorials or step-by-steps, but if you need to do anything more advanced, you'll be out of luck. The second one is that VPCs are relatively unforgiving. And by that, I mean when you create a VPC in AWS, so a private network, you have to give it a size and all sorts of other features. Well, after it's created, some of those things can be changed, and some of them can't. And so if you've created a network and it's full of instances and services, and then you realize, oh, hey, I need to make this network bigger to support more things. Well, good luck. You've got a very painful migration process ahead of you. Now, VPCs and networking may as well be the poster child for that saying, the tip of the iceberg, because so many of the concepts in it are icebergs. And so because of that, we can't really dive too much deeper into the specifics. But we are going to answer the purpose of VPCs. What are the purpose of these private cloud networks on AWS? And that's pretty simple. Control. When you have your own custom VPC or isolated network on AWS, you have far more control over the security, access, and throughput. You can make custom access control lists, firewalls, and all sorts of other components to lock your resources down. It's in the realm of VPCs that a good deal of our security work gets done. And by the way, your network is going to contain everything. Whether you're launching ECS clusters, EC2 instances, or whatever else, it's going to be in a network, so a VPC. Now, if you're wondering, but Cole, I've launched an EC2 instance before. I didn't deal with this. Well, you actually did. Every AWS account comes with the default open and public VPC. If you don't set one up by yourself, then whatever you launch is going to go into that. And since it's open and public, well, it's not really secure at all. Well, though networking and VPCs, and that's about where we'll stop with those, though those are a very large part of security, there's actually yet another massive piece of it. And that's identity and access management, also known as IAM, or spoken as IAM. You can call it whatever you want. But IAM is how we do things like tell AWS what users in our account can access certain services. Or how we tell an S3 bucket, for example, that it's accessible by one of our EC2 instances. So the best way to differentiate IAM from VPC, so identity and access management from these isolated networks, is that VPCs are concerned about locking down things on the network, like ports and internet access. However, once traffic reaches a service, so something like an S3 bucket, IAM is what makes the final decisions on what that incoming traffic can even do with the S3 bucket. So, for example, we may have a VPC that has an EC2 instance in it. Well, the VPC is where we'd set up the rules and security that determines if the instance can be reached at all. Can we log into the EC2 instance, right? So can we SSH into it? Can we reach it from HTTP? We do that with firewalls and network access control lists in the VPC. And even if we reach the EC2 instance, can we reach the S3 bucket over the network? Does the instance have internet access or a VPC endpoint that connects to the S3 bucket, right? So that would all be in the realm of networking security. However, even if we had all that stuff set up and we are able to reach the S3 bucket itself, unless we have IAM set up to allow this instance to get and put things into and out of our S3 bucket, it won't be able to. The network may be completely open to the bucket, but if IAM says, nope, you can't put stuff in or out, then no is the answer. The analogy that might help to think of it is like this. Networking security is going to determine if we can even reach it. So if resources like S3 buckets are buildings, well, then networking security would be if there's roads and gates to the building. If there's no roads to the building and if there's gates blocking us, well, we can't get to the building at all. Similarly, if we have network ACLs and security groups set up to block traffic to a resource, well, no one can get to it. However, once we're there, we may be able to get inside the building, but there's an internal security guard that tells us what we can and can't do in the building. Well, that's like IAM. You may be able to reach a resource over the network, but that doesn't mean IAM is going to let you do anything once you're there. Okay, hopefully that image clears things up a bit between the two in terms of differentiating between IAM and VPCs, so networking security versus the other concept. Looking at our architecture here, now that we've gotten through this, we have everything set up on top of networking and security. And you'll notice that this surrounds everything. Well, because honestly, networking and security, what is it? It's, well, I guess Obi-Wan Kenobi would say it's like the Force. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds our infrastructure together. Now, this is where we're going to stop in terms of networking and security. Though we go through all of this stuff in our AWS DevOps Master Workshop, we can't really go further without this becoming, well, some long winding trilogy, but this is the concept in short, and it should be enough to let you see where VPCs and IAM fit into the picture of cloud architectures on AWS.